the illiterate people of this country who have been denied education, who have been denied jobs, who have been denied two square meals a day, they are being fed up with such propaganda material through which they remain busy fighting each other. Chava is one such movie. When everything is failing, then it is an ideal period to develop an other. That is exactly what even Aurangzeb had done during his own reign. That was the same policy which he followed. Today we are hearing similar slogans where once again the community is being labeled as a successor and a sympathizer to a ruler, a tyrant who existed 300 years back. The problem is, I would like to point out, madam, that Aurangzeb or Babur or any of them, they existed at a time when, number one, there was no nation known as India. Number two, there was no concept of democracy. And number three, there was no constitution to govern them. They were absolute tyrants who could do anything which they wanted. Is being done today, has been done in India before as well. Aurangzeb did the same.
I'm just trying to put two and two together on what you said. So is BJP the Aurangzeb of today's, the current times? BJP.
Let me put my neck out and say that the ideal successor of Mr. Aurangzeb is our Prime Minister.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Nagpur remains tense with a curfew imposed after protests against Mughal ruler Aurangzeb's tomb triggered violence in the Maharashtra city. Now, Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has claimed that the violence was premeditated, attributing it to the heightened emotions to the release of the movie Chava, which depicted the brutal atrocities committed by Aurangzeb against Sambhaji Maharaj. Now, the biggest question at this point of time is that why has Aurangzeb become the center of politics? And who's benefiting from the politics over Aurangzeb? And is Maharashtra now becoming the next communal cauldron as far as BJP's politics is concerned? Joining me now is noted historian from the Aligarh Muslim University, Nadeem Rezavi. So thank you so much for joining on HW, and it's wonderful to have you on a day when this controversy has broken since yesterday. There were violent clashes reported in Nagpur, and the city still remains tense. But what I don't understand is that I'll begin with what Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis said, that a lot has got to do with the heightened emotions which were depicted in the movie Chava. Would you agree that a movie can really inflame the passions to this extent?
Neelu, thank you for having me on your show. I think that is a very pertinent topic. But then I also doubt how many people would really be interested to go and understand the truth behind what's happening. You see, we are living in times which are bizarre. Since around a decade or so, there have been attempts which are being made to replace history, itihas, with what in Sanskrit one calls as mithya, make believe, not the myth or mythology of the English term. Myth in English is something which cannot be proved. Might have happened, might not have happened. That's a popular general understanding. But myth, on the other hand, is something which we think that it should have happened. It's per to our liking, or whatever we dislike, that is what we want to present. Now, in the present, decades or so, not only Chhawa, but other movies have also been made in which the historical themes have been distorted. It all started with distortion of facts, and now it has reached levels when a movie or a depiction has nothing to do with reality. So I would say that it is very depressing to note that the illiterate people of this country, who have been denied education, who have been denied jobs, who have been denied 2 square meals a day, they are being fed up with such propaganda material through which they remain busy fighting each other. Chhawa is one such movie where they have taken, liberties with what actually happened. And it is really unfortunate that there is a sizable number of population who tend to believe. Just imagine that after Chhawa, Neelu, there are people holding, those spades in their hands and going to an old fort and trying to dig up wealth which the Mughals had hidden. But this much I would say that these poor people still have faith in the Mughals, that इन्होंने यहाँ खजाना गाड़ा था तो मिल जाएगा, मोदी जी तो खजाना दे नहीं पाए.
But Professor Nadeem, I really want to understand from you that what is BJP benefiting out of this Mughal emperor, politics over this Mughal emperor? And not only BJP, even RSS indulges in this kind of a politics by calling people Aurangzeb, or by calling people, Aurangzeb's offsprings. Many times, it has become a local lingo, and the conversational style of people, especially from within this ecosystem. Now, how does BJP really benefit? And does it actually benefit in the real sense?
Well, we have seen that even before, decades before, say around a century or so back in 1914 or so, there was a rise of fascism, there was a rise of Nazism, where exactly the same things were done before. I mean, there was help which was taken from, movies which were being made against a particular community, and it led to a genocide. So just remember that whatever is happening here in India now in 2024-25 is nothing very new. It has happened before. What BJP is trying to do is that, or any party, such party, for example, the Nazis or the fascists, what they did was, when they could not accomplish what they wanted, their economy was a failure, their polity was a failure, their society was a failure, and when everything fails, what you do is that you try to raise passions on the basis of religion and sect and caste and whatnot. In the early years of the 20th century, a movement was tried to be built against the Jews. The result was that for some years, Nazi Germany really thought that it was developing. I mean, the propaganda was such that even people living in India, people like Subhash Chandra Bose and others, were also convinced that Germany is on the verge of development. That is what Modi are trying.
The two binaries, of BJP, talking about Vikas on one hand and talking about Aurangzeb on the other. Have the people stopped thinking? Have the people stopped reasoning at all? That, along with Vikas, where on earth does Aurangzeb figure in the current scheme of things? When there is inflation, when there is price rise, when there are so many problems. Our foreign policy has failed everywhere. There is problem all around. A rupee going
I mean,
down,
it is,
and then
yes,
you have a guy talking about Aurangzeb and inflamed passions around him.
yeah, yeah. When everything is failing, then it is an ideal period to develop an other. That is exactly what even Aurangzeb had done during his own reign. That was the same policy which he followed. When there was a fiscal crisis during his period, when he was reigning, when there was an agrarian crisis, when there was a crisis of administration, when there was a crisis of Jagirs, when all else was failing, when all the expeditions which he had launched were failing and people were being killed, instead of new territories being added, there was a paucity of funds. So, what did Aurangzeb do? He also did the same thing. He started using religion, jizya, temple destruction, so on and so forth. So, what is being done today has been done in India before as well.
No,
Aurangzeb did the same.
I'm just trying to put two and two together on what you said. So is BJP the Aurangzeb of today's? The current times.
Yeah,
BJP the
let me put my neck out and say that the ideal successor of Mr. Aurangzeb is our Prime Minister. He's in the ideal image of the Aurangzeb. I mean, it was he who had these visions of grandeur. It was he who, tried to project himself as a great Sufi, as a man of God. All type of legends were circulated, and then he tried to victimize one particular community, and that is what our man is doing these days. Same things, visiting temples, visiting mosques, trying to project that he is in direct contact with God, and that is what he said before the elections.
Hmm.
And then trying his entire party, trying to show that a particular community is responsible for all the ills which are there in the society. As in Aurangzeb's time, all the ill was being tried to be laid at the doorstep of certain type of people. Similarly, today, a
No,
similar attempt is being made.
but does Modi fail to see that people are likening him with Aurangzeb himself? In fact, today also in Maharashtra, several people were saying and likening Mr. Devendra Fadnavis that he's equally cruel like Aurangzeb. And like what you pointed out, that Prime Minister is the ideal successor of Aurangzeb. If I may ask you, doesn't Modi realize that these qualities put him in a negative light?
But according to him, it is putting him in a positive light where he is trying to show himself that he is trying to take up the cause of his own community at the expense of the other. I mean, that is what Hitler did. That is what Aurangzeb did. That is what Mussolini did. And that is what BJP of today is doing.
Right. But what do you think is the real intention behind inflaming the passions around Aurangzeb? And of course, the latest trigger is the removal of Aurangzeb's tomb. Now, do you think that will it serve BJP any purpose if Aurangzeb's tomb is removed? Could this be another Babri moment in Maharashtra?
If you pay attention to what happened in the Advani movement, there was a time when people like you and me were debating whether the demolition of a particular dilapidated, abandoned mosque would lead to some political good of the party which was doing all that. We know that the end result was that from 2 MPs, they got strengthened to an absolute majority. Sometimes this such type of negative politics, wins the day. A Babri Masjid issue was an issue which was developed by leaders like L.K. Advani, who started with a slogan calling one particular community as Babar Ki Aulad. And today we are hearing similar slogans where once again the community is being labeled as a successor and a sympathizer to a ruler, a tyrant, who existed 300 years back. The problem is, I would like to point out, madam, that Aurangzeb or Babar or any of them, they existed at a time when, number one, there was no nation known as India. Number two, there was no concept of democracy. And number three, there was no constitution govern them. They were absolute tyrants who could do anything which they wanted. Today, the rulers of today exist in a particular nation, which is known as the Indian nation, which is governed by a constitution which has been given to us not by some foreigner, but by the Indians themselves, where according to the constitution, each and every citizen is equal to the other and have equal rights and the right to profess their faith and religion, as well as freedom for free speech. But then now in this condition, where there are constraints of the constitution, where there are constitutions of parliamentary laws and acts and regulations, if you try to act similarly as those who existed 300 years ago used to act, I think is a more graver criminality than what we are accusing them of. I'm not saying that Aurangzeb was a saintly figure. He was not. He was responsible for quite a few ills which were brought. I mean, a grand Mughal empire, which had existed from 1526 onwards, was now crumbling after his reign. So you can't say that he was something very ideal. But then he was a man who existed without a constitution. And we call him bad. What are we doing? If breaking of temples was bad for the Mughals, and which was, I and everyone should condemn it. But then if we condemn one thing which was bad, we should also condemn the other which is happening now. The breaking of places of worship like Babri Masjid, or the attempts to break other mosques and places, for example, Sambal, or trying to dig out a tomb which is protected by the Ancient Monuments Act and the Constitution of
No, but you remember Mr. Devendra Fadnavis's statement that we would have removed Aurangzeb's tomb, but it was protected by the ASI during the Congress's rule. This is what he had to say. Now, what I want to ask you...
That is the double speak. What he's trying to say is that he's trying to raise the passions. He is doing the same thing which the others are doing. He is just trying to do what Kalyan Singh had done, taking a vow on the constitution that he is going to defend it and then abandoning the mosque. That is similar thing which he is doing.
But the way the passions are being inflamed and the emotions are being triggered, do you think that BJP in Maharashtra, with the kind of brute majority now they have, they will be in a position to remove Aurangzeb's tomb? And if at all that happens, what could it lead to?
Well, I don't know whether they will be able to remove it or not. Perhaps if they have the force, they have already removed a number of buildings before. They might. In Kashi Vishwanath in Banaras, a large number of temples were removed. You may remove this Aurangzeb tomb. It doesn't make any difference, such difference to any of us, except for the fact that a historical monument would be, a heritage of the country would be removed. That is all. Otherwise, it is not going to harm Aurangzeb or anybody else. So they might succeed in doing that. That is no issue at all. But we think that the way they're doing away of Babri Masjid helped BJP to develop its vote share in bank. They perhaps think that once again a structure like Aurangzeb's tomb might be helping them once again to capture power.
No, but given the fact that, what has happened during the Babri Masjid demolition, there was a long case, would BJP succeed in opening the wounds once again? And what happens? Because BJP has been saying that, Aurangzeb is a blot on Maharashtra's chapter. We don't need Aurangzeb's tomb near Nagpur in the Sambhaji Nagar. What is the point in having it? So will BJP ultimately win a political narrative if at all Devendra Fadnavis succeeds in removing Aurangzeb's tomb?
Well, I think that is a question which you should put up to some politician. As far as I am concerned, I am a student of history. I can only answer to you whether Aurangzeb existed or not, whether he was the type which he is being depicted or not, whether Sambhaji was really so great or not. We can talk of that. But as far as the political questions are concerned, what political move would benefit, what will not, I don't think myself capable of answering that. As a citizen of the country, I can only say that I feel ashamed that the politicians and such people of my country are using such political tools to antagonize a large section of the Indian population. And that worries me. I'm not concerned whether they get vote or they do not get vote. They have got votes in the past. They might also in the future.
Professor Nadeem, we've seen how BJP and RSS, try and inflame passions, and they have used various states like a laboratory. Say, for example, Madhya Pradesh. Now, do you think, and are there worries now that Maharashtra could become the next communal cauldron? Or if I may say in some other words, that Maharashtra could become the next Hindutva laboratory, which already we are seeing it's in the process.
Yogi ji, when he took up charge in UP, he told us that he is going to develop UP into another Maharashtra. All type of industries would be brought here, all type of development which would take place here. That miserably failed. So I think now they have decided that if UP could not be made like Maharashtra, let us turn Maharashtra into a state like UP. I don't know what is going to happen there, but at least by whatever is happening, whatever we are seeing today, I'm very sure that within a few years, Maharashtra would start looking like a twin sister or twin brother of a state like UP. And, all type of development which took place there, and it was supposed to be the economic nerve center of India, that is getting destroyed. So I don't know whether what they are talking about, but I feel that yes, there would be some parity between UP and Maharashtra, but that would be in the sense that Maharashtra would be reduced to that same, situation where UP at the moment exists.
You rightly took the example of Yogi Adityanath, and especially post Mahakumbh, the way we are seeing things manifested in Uttar Pradesh. Almost it goes to show that UP is a communal cauldron now. It's already a Hindutva lab, but converting Maharashtra into a Hindutva laboratory. Do you think BJP can really succeed, given the fact that Bombay is a cosmopolitan city? And how easy or how difficult will it be for the BJP? Because it's also the commercial.
It won't be as easy as it was in UP. But then we have the example of Gujarat, which once was very economically viable. It was once upon a time a nerve center. In fact, during the period of Aurangzeb, Gujarat held the same position as Maharashtra holds for India today. It was the economic hub of the Mughal Empire, with all trade and commerce taking place out there. So now, if Gujarat can be turned into a communal laboratory, Maharashtra too perhaps might one day turn into one. But I think that would be a sad day for all of us.
But given the fact that there are no elections right now, Maharashtra elections are already over, Lok Sabha elections are over. The only state which goes to polls this year is sometimes in October and November, and that is Bihar, which is like months away. Do you think that what's happening in Maharashtra could also impact Bihar in some way or the other? Or they are trying to prepare a ground?
The communal passions which take place in one place always impacts the people who are communally charged at other places. So yes, if you develop communalism, if there is a passion play which is being played out with the blood of the others whom you label as enemies, I think that is going to pay them dividends, even if it's not within that very state and somewhere at a distance. They have
I'll
done
come
it
back.
before. Do it again.
I'll come back to the statement which you made about Aurangzeb and linking it to Prime Minister Modi. I'm sure Modi would not like it, but that's the fact that he's trying to behave in a fascist manner as what Aurangzeb was. How would really history remember Prime Minister Modi, according to you, when history pages are written? When we today in an interview we are likening Aurangzeb to Prime Minister Modi, how would he be remembered in the history pages?
All those who are tyrants, all those who try to project themselves as the greats, they end up in the same fashion as Hitler did, or Mussolini did, or Saddam Hussein did. And let me remind you that even a person like Aurangzeb, who was once one of the greatest rulers on earth, even during his period of time, there was no other ruler who could come equal to him. Not even the Safavid Empire or the Safavid ruler. The Mughal ruler Aurangzeb was one of the greatest. In fact, he was even greater than what Akbar had been during his lifetime. But then, at the time when he died in a very desolate condition. He died, not being supported even by his nobles or by his own people. So all those who play with fire, they end up getting burned. So I'm very sure it might be anybody. It might be you. It might be me. It might be Mr. X and Y. If they are trying to play such politics, their end would also be the same.
But Professor Nadeem, do you see any end of this politics around Aurangzeb, or he's going to continue in states after states? Right now, we are seeing in Maharashtra this inflamed passion around Aurangzeb. Tomorrow, it could be some other state which will use again Aurangzeb. So, is politics around this historical figure called Aurangzeb really going to end?
Yes, a day would come. There was a time when everyone thought that the politics which Hitler was playing would never end. But very soon, within a few years, the matters changed to such a level that no one, even those who were aligned with him, would hide their faces and hide the fact that they had once been close to him. So, some history in that way repeats itself, and there would be a time. But incidentally, let me also point out that these attempts to other Mughals have been going on for a long period of time. Even during the period of Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, he was quite a moderate if you compare with the present regime. There were attempts to change the syllabus of history, which was being taught to our children. So, in a way, there were attempts that there were certain crucial matters which the people who were in charge of the syllabus making wanted the children not to be taught, and thus new textbooks had been written. Now, since the present regime has come into existence, there is a conscious attempt to banish the entire Mughal history from the pages of history. For example, if you look at the syllabus, which is now being drafted under NEP 2020, the Mughals are almost out. But then it is very interesting to note that yes, Babar is out. You must have remembered a few days back there was much discussion whether Babar Nama should be taught in Delhi University or not. It should not be taught.
Yes.
That's what the Vice Chancellor said. And then Akbar, his entire policy of Sulekul, that is not to be referred to. That is something which is now taboo. Akbar is not great. It was Maharana Pratap who was great, so on and so forth. But very interesting fact of the matter is that in spite of the fact that movies like Chhawa are being made on the one hand, but on the other hand, the official syllabus, which is to be taught in the universities and the colleges and the schools, has not banished Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb is to be taught. The attempt is that by projecting Aurangzeb, you are trying to project a particular community as the other.
Absolutely.
They have, they are not friends of Shivaji also. They don't nothing about Shivaji. Shivaji was a great ruler. There is no doubt about the man. But perhaps those who are fighting against, Aurangzeb or lauding the movie Chhawa, they don't even know Shivaji. The only utility which people like Shivaji have for them is that they can be used to tarnish the image of Aurangzeb, and the tarnished image of Aurangzeb would be used to tarnish the image of an entire minority community, which is till date an equal citizen of this country. That is the attempt. Otherwise, on the one hand, you are trying to show him as a demon. But on the other, all those qualities which you say are bad in him, and thus opposite should be good. So the man who was opposite to Aurangzeb is being banished. But Aurangzeb would be taught to these students. Try to understand this fact.
Right. So
they are not against. They are not against in favor of Shivaji. Their politics is just communal and nothing else.
Absolutely. And what bigger political irony than this, that Aurangzeb and Babur, they are banished from the textbooks, but there are movies made of them. There is politics being done in the country. The emotions and passions are being inflamed in the name of Aurangzeb, but you cannot read Aurangzeb in the history textbooks because that is a strict no-no. I leave this entire episode to the viewers to give a feedback, and it was a wonderful interview. Thank you so much, Professor Nadeem. Thank you very much for joining
You should have called me Professor Rezavi. I am Professor Ali Nadeem Rezavi.
So, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Professor Rezavi, for joining. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.